Five Nights at Freddy's Secret of the Mimic is the most recent entry in the Five Nights at Freddy's series, and is probably one of the best mainline series games that we've had in a while. Now, the reception that I've seen across the internet has been relatively mixed, with a large majority of fans absolutely loving the game, but a smaller minority have expressed their issues with it alongside the monumental price tag of £33. Now, I think that we should take a look over the entire game, its story repercussions and much more, to determine whether or not Steelwool has learnt from their mistakes from Security Breach, and whether or not Secret of the Mimic is worth its monumental price tag. And we'll start by discussing the gameplay, but first, we play as Arnold, a technician for Fazbear Entertainment in the 1970s sent into Murray's Costume Manor with the objective to locate a prototype endoskeleton known as the Mimic. Now, upon arriving, we're equipped with the Data Diver, which is pretty much just an old version of the Fazwrench from Security Breach Ruin. Now, Murray was commissioned to produce this endoskeleton.
What the hell was that? They treat me like some contractor to crack a whip at. Oh, Fiona was right. They don't think of me as a friend anymore. This is the last project I ever do for them.
As well as some other things for Fazbear Entertainment, and at some point recently he went missing, leaving the schematics for the endoskeleton locked away inside of his factory, which we have to enter, upgrade our Data Diver, avoid various little creatures, and eventually reach Edwin's office where we can retrieve the schematics for the Mimic and make our escape. But that's the situation. Let's get straight into the gameplay. The first section of the game is more of a tutorial. We learn how most of the mechanics work as we make our way towards the security office, which acts as our sort of hub area for the rest of the game, as well as the location for our first upgrade of the Data Diver, which allows us to go and activate the power. And then this is where we have our first encounter with the Mimic itself, as upon trying to reach the main hallway... Now, Secret of the Mimic practically relies on its stealth mechanics to evade the Mimic. You'll have to activate various sounds, hide in lockers, and evade the animatronics to make it to the main hallway, which does happen a few other times in the game, but I won't really make note of them in future because we've covered it here. And from here we can skip forward a little bit as you have to go up the elevator and locate the manager's office to find the next Data Diver upgrade. Now, in the next room is where you'll encounter Jackie, or... Now, after she absolutely decks this little robot, we initiate a chase sequence, and I do get Poppy Playtime vibes here, but I do quite like the chase in this game, so I'll look past it. Now, at the end of this chase, Jackie confronts us in a vent which... We wake back up in the security office, which is kinda in my opinion, but let's continue marching on, with the next main area we need to reach being the Big Top Showroom, where we encounter Music Man, or well, Tickets Man. Yeah, I don't get how he exists, given the technology available in the series to this point. Anyways, this area was deemed by my stream chat as Lagland, as the models for what I assume is specifically the ticket guy, for whatever reason causes mine and a lot of other people's streaming software to just have a mental breakdown in this area. Now, during this section we have to play carnival games, which then deactivates the power, and then has to be reactivated by completing this puzzle. Repeat this with each of the 3 mini games, and then you can go up to Mr. Helpful and you can go gambling!
Let's go gambling! Aw, dang it! Aw, dang it! Aw, dang it!
Now, Mr. Helpful here does everything in his power to stop you from winning the prize. He even shuts down the power and forces you to progress upstairs, where we do find the next upgrade for our Data Diver, but that's besides the point. Now, from here we get to go out onto the roof, starting the fuck it, I'm calling him the Music Man. We start the Music Man chase, which I did find annoying at first, but upon replaying it might be one of my favourite chases. It's short, it's chaotic, and the music is absolutely fantastic. And I could say that for the whole game, really. The OST for Secret of the Mimic is absolutely awesome. But back to the game, we've been cornered by the Music Man, and surprise, surprise... Returning to our security office, Dispatch instructs us to march towards storage, which is where one of my favourite parts of this game happens. We get to not only construct our own Springlock suit and wear it around to complete puzzles, move past animatronics and more, we even get to see Foxy, or at least a puppeteered version of him that shows up before the stage collapses. I'm starting to see why this place closed down. This is what, the 3rd time we've fallen through a vent or off a balcony? Upon waking up this time, we meet Dolly, a medic-themed animatronic who works in the recycling centre. I really enjoyed this section of the game during my first playthrough. You have to move through the Dolly hospital and collect big chunks of salvage and place them into these chutes, and then later you sacrifice Dolly to the great beyond before you can go and activate the reactor core. Now, I'd like to point out my gripes to the fact that Dolly does come back from this. She was literally dropped into molten liquid. How is she still not only moving around, but able to attack us too? This isn't even the biggest issue though, I just thought it was a little bit weird upon first playing this section. But we have to sneak around and escape through the elevator where... God fucking damn it! Returning to the security office, we are sent on the path towards the admin wing, and have to pass through the warehouse, and in both areas we have to deal with the classic version of Chica, as well as these cupcakes which act sort of as alarms that alert the Mimic to our general position. Now, after getting through the rest of the admin wing, we can find the executive permissions upgrade and finally enter Edwin's office to retrieve the Mimic schematics. But now we get into what is in my opinion the worst part of this game. After evading the Mimic once again, we head down to the basement levels and encounter this tiger, who you may recognize from the Tales of the Pizzaplex novels. Now, he acts as sort of a weeping angel who moves faster when you're not in the dark. So, he moves faster when you're in the dark, however he for staring too long and when you're not looking at him. And you have to navigate through a completely pitch black area. I was getting so genuinely frustrated at this section, but luckily I managed to complete it after around half an hour of crashing out on stream, the full VOD of which is available on my channel and probably will be in the end card too. But returning to the security office, we can hand in our data diver to dispatch and finally go home.
Arnold, there you are. We've been trying to get a hold of you all night. Why didn't you answer? Fazbear Entertainment has no other option but to let you go.
What? I just talked to you. You told me to give you the data diver and I could go home.
So you admit it? You misplaced company property.
No! No, I gave it to you!
Fazbear Entertainment will hold you personally responsible for lost or stolen property. What did you expect would happen?
I did everything you told me to!
Don't call us. Our lawyers will be calling you.
Now, going back to the security office, there's an alternative choice that we can make. Instead of handing over the data diver, we need to access the computer and run parachute.exe. This opens a little trapdoor and allows you to get the true ending, which will then return you to the entrance and activate the goodbye show. This creepy sun thing here will then lower down and act as a sort of elevator, where the Music Man will make his return again. I don't know how he's still active, considering how damaged he was before, but simply just flick the levers to keep the lift moving and avoid Music Man. Now, after a bit more walking, you'll find something that seems a little familiar. A test pizzeria featuring the design from FNAF 1, even with the classic animatronics to boot. Now, I've seen Discord that this kind of proves that William and Henry did absolutely nothing, but I think this is blatantly wrong, as it's stated multiple times that Fazbear Entertainment has commissioned the creation of these animatronics, suggesting that the characters used here are Fazbear's ideas. However, things to do with the design of the animatronics would be affected by Edwin and his wife, as obviously they're the ones creating the characters. It's also shown through various emails in-game that Afton played a hand in forcing Edward's company into bankruptcy.
Edwin, never forget, they're behind it. Don't trust them. Never tell them. They want to destroy you. Dad was right. Attention, traitors. Admin wing permissions have been revoked. And no, you can't clear out your desks. You stole my work. Now your jackets, purses, and coffee mugs, and anything else belongs to me. Maybe I'll go find someone to sell your stuff to. How does that feel?
Then Afton sabotaged Edwin in some way to get everything they want without paying for it, and even took many of his characters like Roxy, Monty, and the mediocre melodies. Now in this area we have to avoid the Mimic once again whilst making use of the Springlock suits. I also like the idea that William stole the Springlock suit schematics and just couldn't perfect them like Edwin could, leading to the and of course Springtrap later on in the series. Now our objective in this area is to make our way into the office, but these cameras here will close doors upon seeing us, so we need to use the two Springlock suits, one of which being an old version of Monty and the other one being a version of Bubba, like the FNAF world boss Bubba. Then as my friend Loaf put it perfectly,
When one door closes, another opens. That's all the help you're gonna get.
So we have to place our suits in front of the cameras to open the locked doors at the sides. We have to do this a couple of times, even using the prototypes of Fredbear and Spring Bonnie to eventually depower the office. Now these are actually our first official renders of Spring Bonnie and Fredbear. Granted it is prototypes, but still. But after the power runs super low, we are able to enter the office where we find Fiona, who throughout the game has been mimicking Dispatch and using us to locate the Mimic schematics to repair M2, and sends us to the main house where we have to find different film reels to reveal a secret code to a door upstairs, which leads us into Edwin's real office and we kind of learn of his grim fate.
Journal entry. Too bad the new power test was a failure. Due to a minor detonation, there is damage to my office interior, as well as a small fire. Note to self, a portable cleaner that gets rid of smoke damage. Ooh, better yet, a Cleanovac attachment. Help! M2! Respond! Emergency! Call for help! Daddy's busy, buddy. Why don't you go outside and play? Please! I can't move. I can't feel my legs. You know, speaking of legs, what do you think? I just finished mine. There are still a few kinks to work out. I'm sorry, M2. I lost my temper. I was always gonna fix you. Please, call for help. M2, respond. Oh, can't right now, buddy. We can do something fun tomorrow. I promise. Ask your mom if she's not busy. M2, help.
Now it's time for our final confrontation with the Mimic himself. They chase us throughout Murray's costume manor as the place collapses in flames all around us. The sad truth is, we were doomed no matter what. The Mimic has to stick around to be present in Security Breach. However, there is another ending to the game which involves you completing the moon.exe minigame on the computers, and then receiving a glitched data driver. Now repeat the steps of the second ending until you reach the main house. Here you have to search the second floor and find these little tapes, which are practically identical to the ones that you used to repair the elevator earlier in the game. Then bring them back to this big machine, and after finding all 6 tapes, this vent will open and lead into a bedroom which you may also remember from Five Nights at Freddy's 4. Although the layout is slightly different, the ideas are all still there. Now taking the Tiger Rock plushie, you have to place it on top of this stand to activate bedtime. The Mimic will emerge from the closet and you have to create the correct bedtime story to deactivate them using the buttons on the little console in front of you. You create a story involving 4 animals that closely resemble the main cast of animatronics from Five Nights at Freddy's 1, but with a dog rather than a chicken. It even ends with them creating a band and you can finally deactivate the Mimic.
The moral of the story is that friendship is the real treasure. Now it's time for bed. Your parents love you. Sleep tight.
And now a word from our special guest.
Secret of the Mimic as a game is honestly very good. The story is very interesting and addictive. It builds up the Murray family from the start, when it's just Edwin, to then Edwin, Fiona and David, and then of course ending in both Fiona and David's death. And then, you know, Edwin goes missing, and then Edwin's pride and joy burns down, sort of symbolising the end of Edwin's reign of the costume industry. But that is depending on the ending that you do choose. The Mimic is a decent enemy to go against. They have a nice mixture of creepiness and cuteness. The whole cuteness bit is mainly aiming at the suits it uses, because, you know, the Mimic in general really isn't that cute. It's quite creepy and, you know, tall and metal and wiry and, you know, all scary. The twist at the end, that Dispatch was actually the Mimic, was sort of a surprise. I mean, we had that with Gregory in Ruin. Both lured us into going somewhere or doing something for their own personal gain. In Ruin, getting Cassie to set the Mimic free, and then Secret of the Mimic with a data diver. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's a bad twist, but you know, this bit is already sort of done literally in like the last game they did. Well, actually no, the last game's actually helped 1 to 2, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean. Okay, so it's lore time now, and if you know me, I don't touch game lore at all. You know, this stuff really gives me a headache. So please, do have fun, I guess, because I'm not going to have fun. I'm literally writing this. It's getting a breakdown. I'm not even joking. I've had a breakdown. Yeah, that is a joke, I think. Having William be this evil businessman that's poaching Edwin's staff, I very much like. And it been alluded to that Henry used to work for MCM, for him to then steal stuff for Fazbear's. I really like this. And trust me, I've seen online, some people don't actually like this. In my opinion, it adds to his character massively. And better still, in my opinion, it adds to the FNAF 6 ending. You know, the whole connection terminated bit. In my interpretation, he betrayed Edwin to give William blueprints, so he becomes William's business partner. After William saw Henry's talent, he then loses Charlie at the place he once helped build, for then arguably to be betrayed by William, realising what he has done and what he has helped to build, for then to put all of Fazbear's mistakes plus William and Michael, and then burn it all down. He's honestly such a grey character. I love it. So yeah, as you can tell, the Henry and William stuff I really like. This adds to their backstory, and honestly, I'm here for it. The way the lore was shown, with the audio tapes and videotapes, I really loved it. Fiona being Mixer was a bit confusing. I just hope they explain why she turned into a rabbit. The Fiona Mimic bot was honestly horrifying. Like, come on, it was really creepy. Like, what was that? I think Tiger Rock in general confuses me. I thought it was a mascot suit at first, but no, it's like a weirdly ghostly presence. I do wonder, is David haunting it somehow? So my one con for this game is Jackie. In my eyes, they got the Yarnaby treatment. They were all over the promotion for this game. You know, getting all hyped up and made all big and massive and, you know, all the keywords here. To then get like so little screen time is criminal. And of course, this happened to Yarnaby as well. Jackie had so much potential in my eyes. But I have got to say, when they were on the screen, they were amazing. They just left us too soon.
And that concludes the gameplay for Five Nights at Freddy's Secret of the Mimic. But now that we've discussed the gameplay and even the basic story premise, we need to consider whether Steelwool has learnt from their sins and if it's worthy of that hefty price tag. For starters, let's compare it to Security Breach for a moment here. Secret of the Mimic plays in a more linear fashion in comparison to Security Breach's more open world feel. And in my opinion, Secret of the Mimic fits into the series much better than Security Breach does. It answers so many questions that we've been searching for years by this point, whilst posing new ones that just won't get solved. Then also, in the trailers, Secret of the Mimic delivers on everything that was promised. A major factor in the hate towards Security Breach was the immense amount of content that was shown in the trailers, but just doesn't appear in game. Even characters like Vanny, who was teased to be the main antagonist, has 2 appearances in a nearly 7-hour game. Better yet, even though Secret of the Mimic is a much faster paced game, all of the characters, animatronics and more get their screen time. None of them stick around for too long or disappear too soon, and they're all in perfect balance with one another, leading to Secret of the Mimic playing out much better and overall feeling more complete than Security Breach. There's also less interruptions to the gameplay, and what I mean by this is loading times. When walking around in Security Breach, there are times when the game just freezes to load the next area. Secret of the Mimic does not have this problem, as the loading points are kept to when you're using the big doors. Point 2, the music and actual design of the game is amazing in my opinion. I love the 70s carnival aesthetic that we've got going on here, and the music only amplifies it to me. As well as the character designs being fantastic looking. They fit the era that we're supposed to be set in amazingly. And all of them look great. I don't think there's a single animatronic design here that I dislike the look of. Point 3, the story presented in the game is relatively easy to understand without having to read the books or having any outside knowledge. Security Breach has an entire book series which, although not necessary, still needs to be read for for everything to make sense, whereas in Secret of the Mimic, the lore is directly presented to you, and there are little extra bits that you can go out and find on your own, but they're not necessary to understand the big picture of the story. Also, Security Breach is placed on the far end of the timeline and feels rather disconnected from the series as a whole, with things like the Burn Trap ending and other random lore additions just muddling up the timeline, whereas Secret of the Mimic is much closer to being within the main timeline, even slotting in perfectly and answering important questions that we've had for years. Point 4, the game is a bit of a challenge and is kind of scary at points. Another gripe people had with Security Breach was its lack of horror and bright environments. Secret of the Mimic though has much darker environments, story concepts that all fit the tone of Five Nights at Freddy's much better, and it's much more challenging than Security Breach in my opinion too. Now, we've discussed a lot of positives here, so I think to round it out we should mention a negative or two. For one, the game is relatively short, taking around 4 to 5 hours on first playthrough. I think if the game was slightly longer, then it's likely to be more worth the price tag. But that's really my only complaint with Secret of the Mimic. But given everything I've said, I think Studio definitely learnt from their mistakes with Security Breach, and that Secrets of the Mimic is a much stronger game in my opinion and definitely sits very high on my FNAF game tier list. And although I do think it's a little costly at £33, I'd say it's worth the price, as Secret of the Mimic is an absolute blast to play. But that's going to be all from me today. If you did enjoy this video, then make sure to like and subscribe, and whilst you're down there you can join the Discord and even go and check out Billyish if you enjoyed his segment of the video. But for now, the next big video that I'm working on is a Five Nights at Candy's retrospective, which should be out pretty soon if I lock the fuck in. But until then, I'm going to go to bed. Good night everyone.